we're live. Good morning. Welcome in. Welcome in. Oh, you're good. Uh, Everyone other than Anita is muted. That should not be the case. 1 second, everybody. So sorry. Try it now? Can someone say something? See if this works.
I'm saying something.
There.
Here's hoping that it goes to the world.
I think it did. Is it
Hello,
working?
good morning, world.
There's Noir. Okay, somehow Zoom audio dropped from.
Fantastic.
That's what you get when it's a beta application capture in OBS. But anyways, it's another episode
You're
of
doing
Morning
great.
Ritual. I'm your otherist host, Anita, and over there's Noir, that way.
And
She, they
hello,
pronouns.
I'm
And we've got a
Alex. I
guest.
use he, they pronouns. Oh, I'm so sorry. I jumped the gun. I got too excited. Anita's got she, they pronouns. I've got he, they pronouns. I'm Alex. I'm really excited to be here.
They squad.
eBay gay.
Hey, squad. A
They
light
gay.
sprinkle in the morning.
Oh, I'm so jealous. Like, I'm waiting to find out we don't have any coffee or anything. I'm sad.
Oh, I can make you a coffee. Do you want me to make you a coffee?
No, we don't have any. It's fine. But yes, welcome to another episode. We went off the rails way early.
Pro tip: if you don't actually drink coffee, then you never miss coffee. So
It's too late for me. They got me. They got their hands into me. Big Coffee got me.
sounds like a you problem.
But you know what? To my pride, Starbucks never got me, even after having worked there for
Damn, that is.
an uncomfortably a long amount of time.
The people that I have known who've worked at Starbucks have been forged in fire. They all have some very interesting stories.
It really is a bonding experience. Like, I had a lady go full Karen on me until we both found out that we used to be Starbucks baristas, and it was kind of like a I don't like you, but god damn it, do I respect you type of-
Yeah.
Soldier.
Where did you serve?
Oh yeah.
Bolingbrook Target. 2005 to 2010. No, anyway.
Oh, you're one of the target ones.
I know, right?
That's rough.
It's even worse. But Alex, please let us know a little bit about yourself. Where can we find your work? What have you been up to these days?
Yeah. Well, you can find me most places on the internet at Alder_Mancy. That's ALDER
kick-ass name.
_Mancy. Stream Magic. I'm hoping to start streaming at some point, but for right now, I'm very, very busy. I've got some really exciting projects I've been working on for a while. Unfortunately, my main job I cannot talk about. But I have a lot of fun side projects that I am excited to talk about. I work as a editor, writer, producer, and performer in the tabletop role-playing game space. I also support a lot of publications of tabletop role-playing games from a marketing perspective or social media perspective or world building creative consulting perspective. As so many of us do, I've got all the hats on and they're wobbling precariously on my head. But I am an LA-based storyteller, so I work with a bunch of companies out here, studios out here, as well as remotely, doing a bunch of freelance gigs across the board.
That sounds exhausting.
Hell yeah, it is.
And
But
to
check
do
back
it
with
without
me-
coffee.
Check back with me in April, and I will have maybe more exciting things to talk about as well.
Okay, can I ask how did you end up finding out that you were able to wear all these hats? Like, how did that journey begin for you?
It is a really interesting story, as I'm sure many people have interesting stories when it comes to getting into this space. But I am much younger than many of my peers who I work with, and I think many people in the space, although I have a lot of friends, close to my age. And I began running my first ever streamed actual play, not producing, but just GMing, with the support of my friends Sarah and Sloan, both of whom I think
Oh
you guys
yeah.
might be familiar with.
Hmm.
I had been friendly with Sloan through I think it was a McElroy live show. Like they were live reading one of the graphic novels or something for Taz, which was awesome. And I met Sloan through that. We stayed in touch. I GM'd a remote campaign for them offline called Siren's Quell. No, sorry, Curse of the Mist Mother, and then ran a sequel called Siren's Quell with another one of my players. And so I began my first streamed campaign, Strange Hungers, which actually is still going on Saturday mornings. Right after this, in fact, I will be going to Strange Hungers to run it. It's a queer horror show. And I messed around with a virtual tabletop that I had found through a Discord server someone had recommended to me called One More Multiverse, which is really cool. It's like this pixel art style VTT,
Yeah.
with some really fun, unique features. And I was like, oh, maybe we could test using this for Strange Hungers. I've been building these pixel maps. And so we ended up doing that. And then One More Multiverse reached out to us. They're like, you're the first streamed show that has used our VTT. So we'd love to like connect with you guys, chat to you, promote you, which was really neat. And then I ended up getting on some calls with them and I was like, you should just hire me. And it worked, which never happens in tabletop games. But it actually did work this
That's
time. And
awesome.
I was still in college at this point. I had some delays in my education due to COVID and neurodivergencies. So it goes. But I continued to work for One More Multiverse in a freelance capacity, pro GMing, as a new player ambassador for their platform along with Sloan in a variety of ways, while also applying to some other freelance writing jobs as I was finishing out my degree remotely. So yeah, that was my first little introduction to doing pro stuff. I think the first PAX Unplugged I went to is where I met you, Noir, and that was a very fun experience. It was also really life-changing for me. I met some
Yeah.
incredible people that I've been friends with for years now. I still remember just like going to this bar and sitting down and meeting Dylan and Noir for the first time with Andre,
Yeah.
and that was a kick-ass night. And from there I met Spencer. I met just so many friends that year, and now I've
This
been
is just the
back.
biggest sweetheart. I swear.
Love it, love it, love it, love it. So yeah,
Yeah. That's that's an amazing start. Like I've got to give it to you. That I mean
it's pretty
one
ballsy.
yeah, I'm just I like where did you find the nerve, like the confidence to like shoot that shot?
I am a big proponent of you miss the shots you don't take, with all of the factors being said that there are a lot of shots you can shoot that you won't get for a variety of reasons, and especially in a tiny little industry that's like stuck in between publishing and performance and gaming and narrative design and all this stuff. um I am always advocating for people to just ask for work and for support. And I think a lot of, again, many pathways to success, and my pathway has certainly been unorthodox because another big part of my ability to be in this space is that I just drove across the country and moved to the West Coast, which was stupid and
Can I
shouldn't have
ask you where
worked.
you moved from?
New York City originally.
Okay. So you went from big city to big city.
I did go from big city to big city. LA is not a real big city. It's like 50 gas stations stapled together on a
True.
highway, and then one nice neighborhood, which is Burbank, and it's not
Burbank.
even LA. It's a different city than LA. Um, anyway, but I there's a lot of pathways to success, and I do think that exhibiting passion and working on your own projects is a really good way to get people to notice you. So I've seen a lot of people who built their own platform first and then that launched them into success. Having someone just know your name and recognize your face means so much in a small industry. So going to conventions really helped me out. Meeting people, being excited about what they were working on and excited to collaborate with them and uplift them. So working with Multiverse, I got started because I just used the platform more and it was a new platform. And so I didn't reach out to them for like sponsorship. I said, obviously I know your platform as well as anyone else does because it's new, maybe better than most people. So what can I bring to the table for you guys? And they were like, oh, well, maybe we could use you. And they no longer have those positions. They've kind of evolved the way that they work now, and they're pivoting and doing a lot of different stuff. And I haven't worked with them in a few years, but I'm still friends with Meg, the art director at One More Multiverse, Antonio, who works on One More Multiverse. So yeah, reaching out, shooting your shot, and demonstrating that you care about something doesn't always get you far, but it really can. I've seen people use Roll20, I've seen people use Demiplane, I've seen people use Alchemy RPG. So just that initial reach out, especially for virtual tabletops, there are sponsorships available in this space. Not a lot, but there definitely are.
Can I ask you for a time you ever shot a shot and it did not work out for you? And how do you recover from that? Because I know a lot of the things that stop people from advocating for themselves is that fear of rejection. Like
Yeah.
this seems to be like something that you have a handle on. So if you don't mind my asking.
Yeah, I have gotten rejected from a lot of jobs. And every job that I have gotten, I do think I got in a non-traditional way. I didn't get any job that I just applied to, except for working for, I did a freelance gig for Be Never Ending for a little bit, and then ended up like working on some other freelance stuff. And I've applied to countless LinkedIn posts, Facebook jobs. I have asked very directly to be a part of networks and had like things come up where they're like, we're not going to be able to work with you, or this timing doesn't work out. And a big part of suffering that rejection with dignity has been the knowledge that I am valuable already. And there are many, I advise a lot of people in tabletop role-playing games and analog gaming to recognize their value while also expanding their own value outside of the space. Like, I have learned a lot from tabletop role-playing games, but the experience that's been most valuable to people like who want to hire me professionally has been skills that I learned elsewhere, like project management stuff or research from doing like, an English degree and a thesis, and just like loving to do interesting research. So the skills you bring from outside and the knowledge that they're valuable really sells you. And being able to say their loss is the only way that I've survived those job rejections. And also, honestly, just the incredibly strong community and friendship that I have behind me, like living with some of my best friends, having this tight network of people that I've played games with, having my ongoing campaign that I've been doing for years, where I can just come back to people and be like, this sucks. And they're like, that sucks for you, but you are still an amazing GM and a great person and a great all around guy. Like, that means the world to me. And I would say you get by on the strength of your friends as well. And that's like, also I've gotten opportunities is just saying to my friends, you should apply for this. And then they're like, we'll recommend you for this, So my first writing credits I got because someone was like, Alex is a great GM. You should hire him to write. I know he has no published credits, but he's great. And that worked. So
Looking at all my friends like, step it up. No, I'm kidding.
yeah, step it up. But I've done the same thing for many friends as well. Like it's always, climb a ladder, drop a rung down. Like it's constant.
That that is something that I feel like the space either does it very well or terribly, which is
Yeah.
making sure you leave the door behind, the door open behind you. Make sure
Yeah.
that everybody eats. Have you encountered, and of course, I'm not asking any names or anything, but have you encountered somebody that is the antithesis of what you believe in the space? Like, have you ever encountered somebody that's just like, ooh, okay, yeah, let, let me not do things that way.
I have definitely learned, not by example, but by counterexample. I've seen I've seen people who I think hold on very tightly to what meager scraps they can get at the table. And that is perfectly understandable in a lot of ways. But this is the tabletop role playing games, in my opinion, is not its own table. It's like the kid table at the video game industry or
Yeah.
the publishing industry or the performance industry. And you don't get to go to the big kid table until you know how to play nice at the kids table. And that isn't to demean tabletop role playing games. It is a fully fledged industry full of incredible professionals and an amazing space to be in a lot of ways. But the people who are fighting tooth and nail while also only thinking of themselves, it is very difficult to eventually gain respect because they're burning the path behind them. Yeah, and I've definitely seen that happen with people. Um, and people get a reputation for it. You really do start to get a reputation behind closed doors for shooting your, like, having an opportunity and mishandling it, having an opportunity and not passing it forward. But conversely, I would say less than people who like burn bridges. What I see way, way more, and also like being in LA and being in a physical space with a lot of people, which I'm very lucky to be in, it's way more about the good reputation you get than the bad reputation. I've seen so many more examples of getting recommended by a friend, and then when I do a good job, it makes them look good, or recommending people, and then when they like kick ass, it makes like I get trusted to bring in people more and more,
Mhm.
or just seeing people who have uplifted each other. Like you can get a reputation for knowing good people and caring about your friends, and that is so much more valuable.
It's almost
Yeah.
like goodwill is cyclical
Yep.
and it feeds into everything else.
Absolutely.
Have you ever felt that you got something like that have you ever, I guess the question is, really dealt with imposter syndrome? Like, have you gotten a job where you're just like, I got the job, I don't know how to do this?
Yes. I mean that was my first job actually. Is I couldn't
Mhm.
believe someone was actually giving me money to run games. And this was also not too long ago, but 3 or so years ago, and Start Playing was just kind of bubbling up. And now I know a lot of people who do pro GMing, and I had looked into if there was like, I'd heard there was corporate game running, that you could like use tabletop games or even just games as a way to become a consultant for companies. And I had no idea how to do that. And I still really don't. Like, I know that there are some people who do it, and there are more well-known pro GMs, but that people, they've been doing it for a lot longer,
Yeah.
and have corporate connections that I don't get, and I don't know anything about that. um I had a lot of imposter syndrome starting out because I didn't have like a big platform, and I had been told that you had to have a big platform to get any work in tabletop games. At one point I talked to someone's uncle who worked at like a big company, and he was like, if you don't have 100K followers, like they're not even going to look at you on a job application. And that has not been my experience. It really has not. I will tell you, you don't need 100,000 followers to get work. It certainly helps, and that's a pathway to success again for some people. But I struggled a lot with not having an acting background. I struggled a lot with again, being young, being uh disconnected from the history that's been going on for a long time in this space. And I don't know when a switch flipped. I think it's that and again, I'm not going to name names here. I think it's that every time I've gotten into a company or anytime I've like actually seen what it looks like to be in publishing, I've realized that no one has their shit together. That like I've worked with small groups of people who are like crowdfunding their own tabletop game, and they are more organized and more professional than people I've met at huge companies. So anytime I get in the door, I'm like, oh, you guys are fucking it up too. Like, you don't know what you're doing either. And so I just over time, like by making a lot of those mistakes, I've realized that the mistakes I've made at these small places have qualified me to be at bigger companies or like higher stakes places and know what the fuck I'm doing.
It's all, it's almost like we're all just trying to figure things out on our own,
Yeah.
and it's not working for us a lot of the time. I love that though.
I really relate to that whole what the fuck are we doing? Like,
Yeah.
like when you're working with a bigger company. I've had that as well. Oh my
But I
God.
mean, some of the smaller organizations, you get that one person that's so good at project management that should be working for a big company.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
shout
and
out to
that's
good
another
project
just piece of
managers.
advice. I have gotten very far on project management. Like learning Asana, I think was the biggest thing that changed my life. And if you can teach yourself any project management tools like Notion and Trello, and I don't want to be like one of those LinkedIn girlies who says, you know, you have to get certified, but I will say that time tracking and organization are your biggest friends, and it has been the downfall of so many people I've known. Like this is a space full of people with neurodivergencies, with you know, a diverse array of backgrounds that some people are like a lot more privileged than others and some are a lot less. And so if you bring to the table the ability to regulate yourself, know what you're capable of and be honest about it, you're already a lot farther. Like just saying, you know, maybe I have ADHD and I struggle to get things done on time, but if you give me these strict deadlines and meet with me every 2 weeks, I'll be able to do it. You know, like that knowledge really, really helps you out, and communicating clearly with people when you can't achieve things will also get you very far.
God, project management. Like I know that's where the money is, but goddamn, that's a hard skill to
Mm.
learn. uh,
Organizing know-how is huge. Writing good email, being able to write a good email is killer.
learning how to say fuck you in corporate is also very
Yes.
useful.
Yeah. And I will also say, as someone who's done 4 or 5 jobs at a time, just to make it in tabletop games, I've had experiences where I knew I was being taken advantage of, but that the money, like there just wasn't money to pay me what I was worth. And I've seen plenty of people do a lot for nothing or close to nothing, and they deserve better. When you advocate for yourself, it doesn't always work. And especially with the layoffs that are going on right now in like tech and gaming,
Yeah.
I'm not going to give people the advice. They should just like ask for a raise and it'll work out. I don't think that's the case, but I do think that where you hold your ground, people can tell, and it does make a difference. And I have held my ground on things like AI and being anti-AI.
Mhm.
I've held my ground on my capabilities, like what I can actually bring to the table, like the time that I can commit. And that has made a difference to people. Like being clear about my boundaries has been better for me, not worse.
Yeah, that's awesome. I also held the line on AI. That didn't end too
Yeah,
well
it
for
doesn't
me,
always
but
work out.
like
Yeah.
you know what? I can sleep kinda at night.
Yeah.
All right, so we do have some Oh, we do have some prearranged questions for the first half. I'm gonna go ahead and get us started on that.
Yeah.
With the question that could potentially break my motherfucking heart here. Here we go. All right, so these are storytelling devices. You roll them, you get a number, you continue on with the story. That's how most people see them. Other people see them as the forbidden crotch, forbidden candies. Uh, and so there are a lot of sides to this war, but there are three main
Yeah.
ones. There are the dice defenders who believe that you don't put dice in your mouth, dice are friends.
Not food.
There are the crotch crew who
Yeah.
are all like, hell yeah, crotch, crotch, crotch all day, every day. And then there are the cowards who refuse to pick a side. They call themselves crotch responsibly, because apparently you could do something that's inherently irresponsible responsibly. Okay, who knows? But
Hey, listen, it's harm
I have
reduction.
Sure. So I have to ask you, what side of this war are you on? Is this a friend or is this something to be crotched?
I have too many nice sets of dice to want to put them in my mouth, but I
Thank you.
have before filled my mouth with math rocks. At some points in my life, I have done it. Not going to clarify if it was a bit or if it was just to know what it felt like, but I have done it. So I think I have to come down on the side of crunchers if
You
only
could be a
to
redeem. You could be redeemed.
confess my shame.
We can say you
Let me
had
lay it out
a
on the table
wayward
for you.
past. Your wayward crotching past, but now you will see the light of dice defendering.
There's just, I have said multiple times, if you could make a chewy gummy die
Oh.
that I could just like sink my teeth into, you would change my world. And I live for the day that that happens, and we have to settle for what we've got. So
Yeah, you're a crotcher in your soul.
yeah,
Um,
I'm so sorry.
it's fine. I never meet your heroes. All right.
Would you like me to ask the next question? As
No,
punishment?
I will ask the punishment question.
Punishment question. All right, I'm ready.
All right. You get to play any TTRPG with any 5 people that are alive right now. You get to choose who's the GM and what game you're playing, and you don't count towards the 5. What's this table look like?
Whew. Okay. I'm gonna try really hard not to be super gay.
I'm sorry. I love whenever the response is like, like, because that makes me feel better because this is the punishment question. Other people are just like, oh, that was it? Okay, here we go. Boom, 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 boom.
This now the really like soft gay answer is that I think that I get to be the GM of the best D&D campaign that I know. And it wouldn't necessarily be that game or it wouldn't necessarily be like, obviously I would pick an amazing crew of people to answer this question, but I do have to say that every Saturday morning has been a joy for the past 2 years of my life, that I have found the 5 best friends that I could have asked for, people who are committed and caring and willing to weather like intense safety discussions together to make an amazing story. And they are obsessed with me and I am obsessed with them. So like I do have to just say that Pooja, Sloan, Sarah, VJ, and Shan are some of my best friends and I love them to death, and I would play D&D with them for the next 5 years.
Did you say Hoosier as in Hoosier kid?
Shan Benian
Oh, okay.
is one of my players. But I have wanted for a long time to run a live action game of Dread. Like a really full stop, intense production of Dread. Sagas and Sundry, Dread, that live production stands out to me as a masterpiece. And so I want to do some kind of huge studio performance. And I would probably pick Noir. No, sorry. I mean, I would pick Noir. But I would also pick my friend Knox, who is an incredible horror person, and he's done like LARP and live action horror before. He's worked on Saga of Sundry. He's like built sets for CR.
Holy
He's
shit.
amazing. So I would definitely want Nox in there.
I love that you just casually know people that do that kind of shit. That's awesome.
Yeah, he's amazing. I would love to play a game with Brennan, and I would love to see someone that charismatic in terms of comedy do some dark dramatic horror. I think that the horror stands on its own as better when you have incredible moments of levity to contrast. So I would love to see that. But then I would also want to pull in like a great horror writer or something. Like I want to play with Neil Gaiman, Like I want that shit. I want like Neil Gaiman at my table. I would love to play a game with Gabe. Gabe Hicks is fantastic, and I hope someday to share a table with them because they're amazing. And I've just I've got a lot of really talented, amazing friends in the space. So Lexi, Black Girl Mage, has been amazing every time I've shared a table with him. We're currently occasionally playing like this offline game, and it's breathtaking. So yeah, and another gay part is I would also share any table in the world with my partner Sarah. They are one of the most talented performers I've ever met, and care about characters in a way that no one else does, in my opinion. So just would love to have them at any table.
I'm sorry, I'm just watching Anita write the summary of your crotch answer. Crotch in heart, not crotch in friend.
Yep.
No, but that table sounds insane. That's such a
I would
good
love
table.
that.
And Dread. I personally have never played Dread myself, but I've heard nothing but good things.
Yeah. Dread or 10 Candles.
Dread is so fun.
It's blast.
The tumbling,
especially in a
tower.
physical space. Yeah, like if the idea of because Sagas of Sundry did one where they had multiple towers at one point, like the tower kind of evolved with these custom made angled blocks, so it like was a lot scarier to pull them. I just wanted to have like a physical set that I could GM in where I'm like moving around and stalking around. Everyone's in costume. There are puzzles and things to interact with for the players. Like that kind of combination of an escape room and a LARP and a, TTRPG is the dream to me. And I hope to do that someday. I got to be a co-writer on an amazing live interactive kind of TTRPG experience with Pixel Circus, who I work with as a technical director, called They're Here. There's an awesome interview segment behind the scenes about how we made it, and that was really cool. I wrote 15 different puzzles, I think over 70 pieces of ephemera for players to find in this on-site mansion that we rented out, where they were digging around and opening desks and finding clues and doing kind of a investigative experience to find out who among them were imposters, and that was sick. So I would want to be the GM in that scenario, not just the writer.
That's
Your
so
portfolio
cool.
must look so sick.
I can't talk about half of it.
Your
NDAs.
Oh, all right. So here's the next question, which is: you are God Emperor of the TTRPG community for one day. You snap your fingers, and anything you want to have happen, no matter how big or how small, it happens. Like you can transfer the wealth from one company to another, or I don't know. You can make CEOs decent people for an hour. That's all the magic can do.
Yeah.
You get 3 things you can do.
Okay. I think that there is an immense audience for the kind of storytelling you can achieve in tabletop role-playing games. So I think the only way to actually have TTRPGs thrive is to share it with more people. So I would want mandatory that everyone gets to play one game of a tabletop role playing game, that everyone sits down and plays one game of a tabletop role playing game, I think that would transform this industry from the size that it is to an incredible massive scope. It would share the magic with so many people. And I mean, for me, the first time that I played D&D, it changed my life. Like it changed my life forever. So not everyone loves it, but I would love like a, group RPG day where actually like millions of people get to play it. That's not going to fix everything, but just imagine that. And I think that would bring a huge wealth of, flowing into the space of people who are interested and excited. I would replace every video game company with a tabletop company. And I would just like switch the places of video games and tabletop. And that isn't to say that I think tabletop is less flawed than video games. It has a lot of flaws in the same way, but video games with the male dominated, power hungry, money hungry atmosphere that's been curated, they need to take a little time in a smaller fishbowl to think about what they've done. And again, like it's a huge question. How do you make money? I'm not answering that question. I'm just saying the amount of different studios where you have AAA, where you have this mid-tier, where you have the amount of indie studios that are actually putting out products, a library, something like Steam, where you're finding those games with inherent built-in support, where you have incredible new talent coming in, where you have like educational programs, MFAs for game design. I want that to exist. So switch those industries around, fix it for me. That would be really, really cool. And then honestly, I want to take every big company I know, pull off the top layer, and slide up the incredible people that I know who are doing work into well-paying jobs that give them healthcare. I'm talking people of color, I'm talking trans people, I'm talking queer people, I'm talking the incredible people I know who are the lifeblood of where this industry is going. Put them in positions of power, because you're not going to get actual change when you're just bringing them on as consultants. I'm saying slide off the top management, trim off the top, bring them in with direction where they want to see things actually going. I want to see the big people, main designers of these huge companies sit down and do a desk job. Like go work at a restaurant for 5 minutes while the creative people who are making amazing things actually get to have like a week where they're in charge.
This is reminding me of a moment I had working for a game company where they hired me on strictly to win over another company so that they would host their game. The other company was just like, fine, we'll host your game, but here are some things that we need you to do. And one of them was hire a safety consultant. So a couple of months go on, and then they send their game to be hosted, and the company's like, "What the fuck is this?" And so my boss is just like, "I need you to read it and tell me what's wrong with it." I was like, "Sure, but who's our safety consultant?" And his response was, "That's a real job."
Yeah.
Ah,
I like how a lot of your advice or a lot of your God Emperor actions kind of boil down to give people perspective.
Yeah. That's pretty much it. There are definitely funnier ones, but I am genuinely lucky enough to be in a position where I think advice I give and opinions I have can change the future of tabletop role-playing games. Like that's a lot of power, and I'm very aware of it, and so I think about it constantly.
I love it. I love it
Yeah.
so much.
Oh, yeah.
I also like Sarah's suggestion. Big die replaces the moon.
I can't. Sarah's beat me. Um,
You know
that's way
how
better.
foreboding a one would be on the moon?
One on the moon.
Oh,
Just
no, it's
It's
a-
been a one.
It's either a full moon, it's a full 1 or a natural 20.
Yeah. It would be really interesting if the moon was a die and then the number affected the tides and like the gravity or something funky.
Oh, that would be sick.
Yeah.
We're
That's a game.
deciding
Now we're world
a
building.
homebrew-
Moon's a die.
homebrew world.
The moon is a die. D1 moon tornado.
Perfect.
So our next question is that we ask our guests to kind of point out their signature moves. Like, what do you feel that you bring to a table as a player that is better than most? Like, what is your signature as a player?
That I want to be the GM. I have to be so honest. I love playing games. I really do. But I don't want to be a player. Like, I want to be the game master in almost every scenario. I just love it like nothing else. But putting that aside for a minute, I have found that I am more mechanically minded than a lot of people in that I'm able to quickly pick up mechanics and understand and use them. And I know a lot of people who can do that. But especially when it comes to maybe like streamed games or game performance, or again, like in my work as a developmental editor, I have been someone who has been handed a 300-page book and I have to make a quick start for it, or I have to like parse it down and summarize it to give to a GM who's going to perform it live. The ability to quickly parse mechanics and understand what they're trying to achieve narratively is a skill that I find is very helpful. So I've been at a lot of tables where I pull out a mechanic from the book and I use it in a way that showcases something about the game, and that feels really nice to me because I don't think you need that to be good at playing TTRPGs. It's just the way that I like to do it. I really like to take things apart and kind of shape them and mold them and use them. The other thing I will say, and again, I know a lot of people who are really amazing at this, but I care so much about it, is highlighting other players. I love to. I had an experience recently when I was playtesting a game, and I like looked over at a player sheet and glanced at an ability that was kind of off to the side that they hadn't noticed, and it was like a lore ability where they could get advantage on, not like if they knew something about a custom, and I kind of said to the GM, or I like mentioned to the player, oh, do you know anything about maybe the proper ritual to approach this witch? And the player like looked through their sheet, noticed they had advantage, and we had this whole role play scene because I had noticed they had that ability that they weren't using or like hadn't used before, and they were new to the game as well. So giving other players opportunities to highlight what they can do, again, kind of coming from a GM mindset where I really like to know what are on player sheets, how can the mechanics of the game support them. That's something I think I bring to the table.
Hell yeah! Like, I really love like making sure that every part of the character sheet is used. I feel like there's
Yeah.
usually such gold in there that just gets overlooked. That it's nice to meet somebody that's the same way.
I'm such a wizard main. I want to put 50,000 things on my character sheet and use them all. Like it's always either wizard or barbarian, and by that I mean the most complicated in terms of not like necessarily mechanics, but like what you can pick up. Because
Yeah,
wizard is you can eventually, with enough time and money, learn every spell. Like you can just do it.
yeah.
And if you can't learn every spell officially mechanically, you can figure out a homebrew thing that will let you figure out every spell. You can invent new spells. Like you will eventually have a spell book of 30 to 40 just options for yourself. That, or the most punch as hard as you can, or like hit as hard as you can class. I love to see the two sides of every game, your most option and usually least option, because it gives me a really good sense for it. But like I want to put 50 things on my character sheet. because I will fuck around and find out with all of those things. Like I've done the whole, you stick your find familiar spider into someone's cloak and then you blow your spider up with a fireball and like knock them off a cliff. Like I've done the, if I wild shape into a spider and there are a bunch of webs, can I use the spider web sense to know where all the other enemies are in the region? Like I love, 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 love fucking around with mechanics, and I will do it every time.
Oh my god, that sounds like just awesome. If you're a fellow player, and like a nightmare for the GM.
Yeah, that's why
Yeah.
I gotta be
Think on the
the
spot,
game
buddy.
master. I've been, again, I have some very lovely players and I've been very lucky, and I love coming up with new mechanics or interesting ways to mess with mechanics. And one of the things that I had happen recently is I was doing some hag deals with players. I introduced this hag NPC, and I was coming up with some interesting curses for them. Not a single player walked out of that hag lair with any mechanical detriment. None of them had anything affect their mechanics. It was all purely narrative, and that was way, way worse. Way
Oh
worse.
no.
So I just love like tackling and digging in to not only what you can do to a game to make it hardier or like use its guts, right? But what else the game suggests you can do.
Can I ask her
what it
what
lacks.
Can I ask
Yeah.
her what one of those curses was?
One of the there were two main curses. One of them was that the player said they would give up some of their life to the hag, and thought maybe it was going to be HP or Constitution or something like that, or like their lifespan, right? And instead of giving up 50 years of their lifespan, they lost the first 50 years of their memories. Like literally took their life away.
Oh my
And then the second one, and this is a very like romantic character who uses intimacy as a coping mechanism to mourn this like lost lover, but also just like enjoys intimacy, and wanted to find a way to possibly bring that lover back from the dead. So the hag asked for like a taste of what that intimacy was like, what that love was like, and the player character can no longer physically feel the pleasure of intimacy. Every like loving touch feels cold. They can no longer gain any pleasure at all. And then the hag has the ability to feel that pleasure instead. So we had a moment where like a character went up and put a hand on his cheek and was like, "Are you okay?" And the hag was like, and he just felt nothing.
That BJ's character?
Yeah.
Oh my god.
So like listening to players, and I truly think so many people want to be fucked up in a game. Like so many people want to be absolutely fucked up in an angsty way that is specific to them, and they are telegraphing it all the time. Like if you listen, your players will tell you what they want. And it's really fun. So and it's not every game. Like, listen, I love Wanderhome. Like I love rules like, happy games as well. I've played lots of goofy board games. Like that's all my shit too. I will say that. There's nothing I love more than someone saying, "Please hurt me so bad" in a game, and me going, "I know exactly how you want me to do that," while being safe about it. Like while checking in, like you do have to look for the players who like step forward and ask for it the most,
This just reminds me of the Venn diagram between cake and TTRPG is a fucking circle.
Yep.
It's a stack of pancakes.
Mhm.
I just love Sarah going, "It was me." That is brutal in such a just a delicious storytelling type of way. I really hope there's like an elaborate cure that they like you can get out of this, but it's going to be a whole thing.
Oh, it's gonna be a whole thing.
It's a
I
whole
love
quest line.
A whole quest line. Yeah, I literally said to VJ, one of my players, like, you've just started a quest line, and I'm so excited about this quest line. You got a quest marker right now, and we're heading towards it, and I've like got 50 steps planned. It's so good.
So here's one that I've got to ask you. As a GM, I know that there are times where I fall in love with a certain NPC,
Yeah.
and I just kind of want to keep bringing them back, which is a detriment to the game. So how do you deal with, like, making sure all of your NPCs are where they're supposed to be, and like you're showing all of them equal amounts of screen time?
Kill your darlings. Kill your darlings. You gotta do it. Like, I and this is something that kind of switched for me at some point. Like the first game that I ever played, I I was full on player. I didn't have that love yet. Like, I was obsessed with my character, and every NPC connection I wanted to roleplay with them all the time. Like this dramatic, like moody X that I had, and like this interesting like love interest, and this evil villain arch nemesis. I loved them. But I truly believe as a GM, your job is to facilitate. And every character that is part of the game exists as a reflection to the player characters, but also has their own lives. So when I do get really into an NPC I've made or a character I've created, I still have them work in the world without being present in the moment. I have NPCs that like I have this amazing, awesome Archmage character who's really into research. And he is someone that I would just want to roleplay all the time. But he is still working in the world, even when he's not actively interacting with the players. Like, in my mind, he's doing research, he's writing, he's looking into things. He has this awesome library he's doing stuff in. And the players will still see the ramifications of that later down the line. If they reach out, he will have been doing things. Like, he will have new information to give them, or they will, get a message in another town. They'll meet a wizard who he knows, or something like that, and like he will give them an interesting magic item to connect back. So giving them a life outside of the campaign is really helpful.
Yeah.
But when I say kill your darlings, I don't mean literally kill them. I mean,
just all my favorite NPCs dropping
just
dead.
if you line up 5 characters, your players will pick the one that they're most interested in. And it is our job as storyteller to say the most interesting character is the one that they're interested in, not the one that you are, which is really difficult, but they will self-select. And I found there are a lot of great ways to get players to select a character that you also like. A fun accent, a cool scar, a dead loved one. Like, there are lots of ways that a player will get emotionally attached.
The 6'4" muscle mommy.
Yeah, muscle mommy. And maybe for me, I like a sprinkle of antagonism. All of my NPCs have their own things going on, right? So the characters that have stuck around the most are the ones that are complicated. And if you continue to make those complications relevant to the players and the story, you won't feel bad about having them be in the story anymore. So if like there's a fan favorite who's sticking around, once again, fuck them up. Like, have something happen to them, pull them away for a bit in a way that's relevant to the story.
I love that. That's amazing advice. Can I ask what do you think your players would answer with the most if I asked them what's the most traumatic thing you've ever done to them?
I again, I do have a lot of horror campaigns. I love horror stuff. So that is that. They've gone through, I built a dungeon that was inside a whale. It was like one of those, whale fall things. So they went through the entire like mega dungeon of this whale innard, Leviathan innards, and
Oh my God.
like pulled little heart bits out of it, and it was like cursed and corrupted and all that stuff. So that was pretty gross. I took the temple of one of the characters who was a paladin, like the childhood temple, and there was a massacre there uh, by an evil entity that worshipped the same god as the paladin. So it was
Oh.
like this other side of the god that the paladin was seeing, where the main enemy said, like, you're like me, we're similar. That was pretty fucked up. A lot of memory stuff. Memory is a big theme in my games because I have my grandmother passed away from Alzheimer's. I sometimes struggle with memory issues. And I think that memory is very interesting. Like the biases and perspectives we have come from our memories and our experiences. So I'm very interested in playing around with how memory serves. And that same temple, there, one of the parts of it was storing memories, that you could store your traumatic memories there and no longer remember them, but they would be saved. And so there was like playing around with things the character didn't know they had given up, but they had given up because their family had asked them to, like intense stuff like that. There was a gambling game where it turned out like a villain was there who was this evil dad, right? And that secretly his life force was connected to the life force of his daughter, who was a love interest for one of the players. So anytime that the villain got hurt, like part of the game was also betting with years and lifespan. He was not betting his years, but actually his daughter's years, and the player tried to like turn it back on him, and it ended up actually like aging that love interest instead of hurting the villain.
Oh. That would hurt me, and I only
Yeah.
hurt the general.
That one was rough. But like again, I always check in with players about these things. Like if any of it seems too punch in the gut, I'm really happy to adjust. Weird
How do
cave
you-
horror, just
How do you
I love
facilitate safety
horror.
discussions like that?
Yeah.
Because that's a skill. That's skill, definitely.
It has taken a long time to work on, and I think talking to your players is the number one thing. Like communication is huge. Safety is not built with one document, and safety is not built with 5 sessions. Safety is an ongoing practice that you work on constantly, and it doesn't stop issues from happening. It helps you adjust once they have happened, in my opinion. Now there are preventative ways. I'm not saying that. Like I think that there are so many things you could do to prevent issues, but there are things that would significantly affect one person that would not affect another. And I have learned them by just spending a lot of time talking to and caring about people that I play games with. I have my friend Pooja. I've played so many games with her at this point. Like I've been running Strange Hungers with her for 2 years. We've done charity games. We played Bluebeard's Bride, which is an incredibly intense game about like feminine horror and trauma. And I think we could play at any table together just because I've known Pooja for so long that I know exactly what to avoid when she's at the table and exactly what to lean into. So time is a huge practice. Anything that cannot be reversed. So anything you do to a player that you cannot reverse in some way, you ask about it first. Anything that relates to intimacy at all, you ask about first. And I'm not just talking about physical intimacy. I mean emotional intimacy. If someone is hiding their identity, if someone has an intense emotional connection they're lying about, that is usually worth checking in. But at the same time, again, I have had surprise daughters. Like I've had a player learn that they had a daughter. And that was like the best thing in the world for them. They went to me and said, I can't believe you gave me a daughter. I'm so happy. And it was like, not technically their daughter, like an adopted daughter, not like that they had a sexual encounter they didn't know about, nothing like that. So you can surprise your players with things, but more and more I have found that the things I used to not ask my players about, I now ask them about upfront. And that is really for actual plays. Like if you're gonna do something live with people watching, it's a lot better if you can react a little bit and it doesn't really ruin the surprise. Like,
Yeah.
I nowadays I don't want to go into a dungeon and see someone that's been like torn apart violently in certain ways. I don't want to see like massacres. There's too much dark stuff going on in the world around for me to be able to react very well instantaneously. But if I know something is coming and I can prepare myself for it, it makes me a better player in that moment, and it gives the GM more to work with. So
Mhm.
constantly, like Sarah said, choosing safety over spoilers.
Uh, go ahead.
No, I said go ahead.
One of the things that Sarah also said here was that you're good at choosing players who are willing to engage enthusiastically and in safety work.
Yeah.
How do you go about choosing people for your table? Like, what are some things that you look for? What are some immediate like red flags that will just
Yeah.
get somebody removed?
My number one standby is encourage a no. If someone says no, reward them. And so players who are willing to say, I don't like that, I have this boundary that made me uncomfortable, encouraging that is huge. Because if a player cannot communicate what affects them or what boundaries they have, I cannot play at a table with them. I am putting myself in a position where I'm hurting someone without wanting to, without the knowledge I need to keep them safe. I am in the position of hurting the other players. And it can be very difficult to have hurt someone, to have made a mistake and have hurt someone. But if you know how you could have, if you know that they could have been prevented and the player didn't give you the resources to prevent it, it is as much, not as much, but it is on them and also on you. And so if you find someone who reacts poorly to being told no, that's also a huge red flag. Like a GM who gets mad at the player when they've crossed a line, a GM who like, and again, like I've made safety mistakes where it really was upsetting for me, it was difficult for me, but the first thing that I showed to my group was not the I'm so sad about this, I'm so upset about this, like I'm frustrated, I have to rewrite something. No, I always show the face of thank you so much for telling me. You have made the table safer by doing so. You've made yourself have a better time. You've made me have a better time. Everyone at this table is now going to have a better experience because you expressed that you were sad or uncomfortable or hurt, and we are going to be able to tell a better story now going forward. So people who are willing to say no is a huge green flag.
Let's see. I like that, and I'm actually gonna adopt that.
Yeah.
I think that's it's it's comforting. It's comforting an action that is usually not comforted at all.
Yeah.
It's like people are kind of just left to the woods to say no. And I think that fostering an environment where you know that you can say no and you'll be celebrated
Supported
by
and encouraged for it.
the table.
Yeah.
I think that's massive. I think that's huge. Yeah.
It's huge. And it applies to a lot of other things. I think it's applied to me throughout my life when someone comes to me and says that I've hurt them in some way. It's very, those emotions are very difficult. It's not that you shouldn't feel upset when that happens, but like being glad that someone has told you that you've hurt them so you can adjust going forward. I also say like the sexiest thing you can hear is a no, because, and not in like a weird creepy way, but like if someone says no, then you learn more about what yes is. So that's really good.
Never thought about it that way. Yeah. um. All right, so we've got our green flags. I was just wondering, are there any behaviors that you have learned through your experience to like avoid having that at the table?
Yes. Some major red flags for me, and this is, some of these are personal and some of these are general red flags.
Right.
A big personal red flag is I struggle a lot with people who are deeply insecure or have a lot of character bleed. I think there are some tables where the character, like having character bleed or like negotiating it and navigating it, can be really cathartic. And I don't ask players like not to bring. I ask players to bring their experiences to a table, but people who are unable to distinguish between their characters' emotions and themselves very intensely can be very difficult.
Mm.
People who need, and not, it's really not mechanically. Like if you don't get a mechanic that doesn't, you can learn mechanics, you know. But if you are insecure about uh like that you need to take up a lot of space to feel like you're having a good time, if you're unable to share spotlight, if you don't feel secure in being good enough to be there, it can be very difficult for everyone else. Because in many cases, if you're doing a professional game, like maybe you're paid to be there or sponsored or something, having that at the table is very difficult for everyone because you are there in a professional sense to bring your best and do a good job and also have a good time. If you're just playing with your friends and they are constantly having to reassure you they want you to be there, that can be very difficult for the like health and safety of a game. Um, and again, like I said, people who are unwilling to share spotlight, who cannot, who are constantly thinking about what is best for their character or themselves, or even people who are just unaware of it. Like, and if they can't learn when you say this moment was difficult, or you had an opportunity to spotlight someone else and you directly chose the opposite, you know, like if you have those conversations and they can't learn from them,
Yeah.
that's a big thing. Uh, all white tables, fuck that. All male tables, also fuck that. You know, that kind of thing is a huge red flag for me. But I have certain different standards based on like a one shot versus a campaign.
Yeah.
You asked before how I find players, and I'm at a point nowadays, and this isn't where everyone is, but I'm at a point nowadays where the amount of my time is like I'm a busy guy, you know, and the games that I play, I want them to mean a lot to me or teach me something, or be with people that I don't spend enough time with. So when I choose people that I'm going to play with for longer term, I look to people I admire and respect and want to become closer with. I look to people that I trust implicitly, to people that I've had really good experiences with before, people who share experiences with me. I love curating like great queer tables and telling stories together there. People who have something to teach me. Like I feel like I learn something every time I play a game with someone with an experience that's different to mine. So that like empathy building exercise is huge.
Yeah.
People who do not think they are different is a red flag. Like someone who comes to a table like believing their experience is neutral. Neutrality, I could go on and on about this, but the idea of neutral and normal experiences comes directly from a white supremacist ideal of like this Eurocentricity, this standard experience, and everyone comes to a game with a bias and a perspective. If you don't see that bias or perspective and you believe your experience is the default, that is a huge red flag.
That is an interesting perspective on main character syndrome.
Yeah.
Like it just I think that just took a look at main character syndrome with what is it? Oh my god, my brain just
Decolonialism,
to,
Yeah.
yeah. Inter. Oh my god, my
intersectional.
brain. Yeah, they'll like an
Yeah.
intersectional look at main character syndrome because like we've all played with somebody who thinks they're the main character. I just never gave the energy to think, why is this happening? My thought was, oh, this is happening. This is going to be a long couple of sessions.
Yeah. And it isn't always, you know, like a cis straight white man who does that, you know, but I do think that main character syndrome can come from people who have been centered in a way that they haven't realized, but
Yeah.
also it can come from people who haven't been centered enough, and getting to the root of what they need. If they're responsive in a conversation, you know, you can still work it out.
Oh, that's a sorry for just a random compliment, but I do love the amount of thought that you put into like things that I have witnessed and I've just been like, it is what it is.
Thank you.
Like I just that there's a certain level of thoughtfulness there that's really cool. That that's inspired me to just kind of ask the why when something annoys me.
Yeah. And like you don't have to make room for the why either.
Yeah.
There are plenty of people who do not deserve the why. Like they've been asked it plenty of times and they don't have a good reason, you know? Like you don't have to make space to think about the actions of everyone who's fucking your shit up or who's giving you a hard time or who's annoying the shit out of you. Like there's enough patience in your life. You can save it for where it really matters. But
And
yeah, I think it is both a strength and a flaw, the ability to say like where is someone else's coming from and to have empathy for that position. There are people who don't deserve that empathy, but it is a huge boon to have.
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
not
Okay. Oh, go
I
ahead.
was just gonna say, not to sort of psychoanalyze you, Noir, but I think a lot of the reason why you're so conditioned to accept poor treatment might have something to do with the fact that
Like
as a black mask presenting person, you get that a lot. You get poor treatment that you just have to accept.
Yeah.
You live, you learn, you get lugs.
There
My
it
la-
is.
Gee, how dare you?
You deserve better.
You deserve better.
You called it out like a boom. There it is. There's you accepting that horribleness. All right. Here's the last question I have before we go on break. Which is we like to ask our guests about their TTRPG bucket list. Is there any sort of relationship that you would like to play that you haven't had a chance to yet? Any sort of fight
Ooh.
that you would like to have that you haven't had a chance to? Like, for example, me, I want to jump off of a dragon and then have to figure out how I'm gonna land safely. So
Oh,
like
that's a good question.
right? So like that's on my bucket list. What do you have on yours?
Okay. I have not. I would love to kill every monster in the monster manual. That's a big one. I haven't done it, and I would love to either kill or GM. Like GM every monster in the monster manual, I think would be really fun. I actually haven't run a lot of dragon fights anyway, just because I have a kind of world building thing where dragons are super rare or supposedly dead or extinct. And I've like been wanting to build up to how they went extinct and do a whole campaign where they like play through a bunch of dragon stuff, which would be really cool. I have done some really good sibling games. I have wanted to play a married couple, and I haven't done it. I've had players
Yes.
play a married couple. I haven't done it with another player, and I think that would be so tight. I also love ex-married. That's
Yeah, I'm currently playing a
Right?
divorced couple right now with AJ.
divorced couple.
So good.
So good. In a non D&D specific way, I really like to play different like animal folk, and I think I want to play a bunch of animal folk for a while. Like I would love to do a family of animal folk, like in one of the most recent Dimension 20 games where they had a bunch like a group of stoats.
Yeah.
So that would be really cool. Family of animals.
I'm sorry. I'm still tweaking on the whole kill every monster in the monster manual. How has no one made this an official adventure yet? Like I just
Well, I mean, there's the Kill Every Monster podcast.
That's true.
it's not an
And
adventure.
actually, I think I have some friends who have a little group where they are like fighting through every monster in the monster manual. They have a little show that they do, which is fun.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
though.
I think that'd be really neat. I haven't done it. And then I would like expand it and do the Gauntlet.
The Gauntlet. I heard
That's
of that.
it's a great show. Definitely check it out.
Yeah, my friend Darby was on there. I want to.
Yeah, I love Darby.
Oh, we love One Whole Derby. I'm so
Another
jealous
LA
of
person?
you LAers.
Yeah.
Yes.
I'm so lucky. I can't even tell you. There are so many great people out here.
I visited like 2 or 3 times last year. One to try and figure out how to do a studio shoot in Chicago, and two, I was just like, well, maybe I might want to move to LA. And then I looked at the rent, and then I was like,
No,
I don't want that at all. I don't need that in my life.
it sucks. It sucks a lot. A lot. But I'm very lucky to have some great people out here. And I had great people back on the East Coast too. I miss New York all the time. I am usually back on the East Coast for PAX Unplugged, and I have an amazing group of people like Dylan and Andre and Christian. Just a lot of great people that we hang out with. So
Hell yeah. I love to hear that. Well, we have been at it for about an hour and 30 minutes. So let's say we go on a break. I'm going to put some medicine in my body.
yes,
And then we
do
will
it.
be right back. So y'all don't
Cool.
have to hear these chest coughs. So so yeah, what did we say? A good 10
About
minute
10
break?
minutes? All right. All
Sure.
right,
Cool.
everybody. We'll see you soon.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
And we're back. Hello.
Howdy.
Let's double check, make sure audio's coming through. Huzzah!
Fantastic.
Didn't drop
We
it
did it this
twice.
time. All in one.
First go. Let's do it, baby.
I
All
just realized I have a beautiful muffin here that I haven't touched. But it's okay. ADHD.
I was just gonna be like, what's a question that I can ask that'll give you a suitable time to think and eat your muffin?
Nah, hit me. I'm good. I'm running
All
on
right.
caffeine now.
Hell, well, I just got my caffeine, so we're good to go. Here is my question to you, and this is the first of our dark roast, which is
Ooh.
essentially the same as the front half of the show. We just gave it a sexy name, which is we asked you what your signature move was as a player. On the dark roast, we ask, what is your signature move as a GM?
I mean, fuck 'em up is already on the table. Definitely. I build my entire world and story as a GM around the players, what they bring to the table, what they're interested in, as many GMs do. But one of my favorite things to do is a grab and twist, which is something that a player is interested in, take it, put it into the world in a bigger way, but with a turn to it. So they are players who are really into romance and want to kind of explore that in the world. As a great example, my friend Pooja plays a character who is young and a little naive and is still kind of figuring out her relationship to romance and all of that. And the empire that she's from, we've played around with the idea of how romance and romantic relationships are actually a huge political tool. The entire royal family is incredibly attractive and charismatic, and they have this like long lineage of warlocks and this connection to this fire god, right? And so the ability to get their children married off as ambassadors to other countries is a form of consolidating power. So they're encouraged to be super kind and be very comfortable with a lot of different forms of intimacy and romance and very like feelings heavy. So the entire culture of the country that this character comes from gives the context of young, like sweet person who has a lot of crushes, this like very interesting political dynamic of if you go and you know fall in love with a prince from another country, are you actually securing the power of your great grandfather who is trying to expand his empire across the entire continent?
That's a side of politics that I've always wanted to explore. My personal issue with it is like we've only ever seen well, we've only ever really seen it done through the eyes of patriarchy, and I think that that's where I personally get wary
Yeah,
about introducing something like that into a game that I'm running, just because I don't know that I have the confidence in myself to, like, to
yeah, yeah. It's
not
been a
let
long
that ugly
conversation.
get in there. So
Yeah,
like, so my question to you is like, how do you approach relationships and intimacy mixed with politics when the examples that we have in real life are so horrid?
pretty fraught. Yeah,
Yeah.
it is not for everyone. It's for a specific group of players, I think. There are tables that I wouldn't GM um, when it comes to racialized politics. I defer to players who want to introduce those elements to a table. When it comes to like romantic elements, I feel comfortable enough with my own experience of like political relationships as someone who identifies with queerness and has been in many like T for T trans relationships. The idea of a relationship being seen as political is really interesting to me. But Noir, I would challenge you to examine how your own relationship is inherently political in many ways, how you are perceived externally, and in that to find a confidence that you have a lot to speak on when it comes to how you are perceived by the outside world and how
Yeah.
the way that people see the form of love that you have as something that says a lot about you and your character and how you exist. Just in terms of like, you should have the confidence to talk about that, especially if you do it through conversations with a player.
Now that you bring that up, I have run and I am running an all black table. The first one was Harlem
Hell yeah.
Nights, and the second one is Haunted West. And like, one of the things that was requested is like, we want to shoot a racist every day.
Yeah.
Like, and I'm like, that's awesome. The thing is, I'm the GM.
Yeah.
So it's like, all right, we're gonna do this because this is what the players want. And it's an ugly thing to like even put on the mask of, but when
Yeah.
you see what it does for the players, where it's
It
just
means
like,
so much.
it's yeah, and it's a very weird. I love being a GM, and I love talking to other GMs because the job requires doing some ugly things, but for the most beautiful reasons.
Yeah.
And it's very hard to describe to people. And I think like, I know for one, like, I know that you understand like having to like give, sometimes we have to embody the evils that our players encounter day by day so they can have a win over it. And
Yeah.
that's just such a weird feeling.
Mm-hmm.
Giving villainy a face is very
Yes.
interesting. And again, with the turmoil of our political climate, I think that villainy has always had a face, right? Like by identifying it, we take away some of its power, like the anonymity of it. But conversely, with the rise of like neo-Nazism and white supremacy and fascism in our country, the more that we give people a platform, the more that they normalize it for others who might have been harboring those beliefs but weren't sharing them. And the recent presidency and political movements have really given power to those people.
Yeah.
But in gameplay, as I think countless GMs have talked about before me, when we introduce the catharsis of having control over the villains or choosing the villains you want to encounter, you do empower people to feel like they have authority and agency in a world. And that can do a lot for their
Mm-hmm.
confidence and day to day life. So there are villains I'm comfortable playing and villains I'm not comfortable playing, as I'm sure you probably feel the same way. So when it
Yes.
comes to that, like pulling from the players as a GM tool and using it in the world, my advice is always ask. Like I suggest to the players I have this idea. My world, any element of a world that you're building or a story you're crafting, you know, if it's more traditional fantasy, if it's science fiction, if it's, you know, in modern day, right? Nothing is set in stone, in my opinion, until a player goes there or cares about it. Like I think that like those animated reels, you know, where like you're walking, but you only see the area you're walking in, and like everything behind you disappears and everything in front of you hasn't been drawn yet. The world is like that to me. It's like animation, where when you go to a place, it becomes real and it becomes important. And if a
Yeah.
player cares about something, it becomes real and it becomes important. Everything else is a loose sketch we can fill in together.
Absolutely. On that note, I have to ask, have you ever surprised yourself? Like, has there ever been like a, you know, a backstory request or an NPC request that a player had that you were unsure if you were able or willing to pull it off, but you tried it and it actually worked?
Definitely.
That's one of my favorite moments.
I love it. And I'm really confident in my GM skill. Like I think I'm a great game master, but there are challenges that I have had put to me that I was surprised to find I could do when it comes to things like group work, actually. Like multiple characters and managing that at once can be a lot.
Yeah.
Um and another funny thing is like accents. I don't have an accent repertoire necessarily, and I assumed, especially at first when I began doing like actual live stream storytelling, I had no improv training. I hadn't ever streamed, like I hadn't done live streaming, you know. I just didn't have any experience with it. And I started practicing some goofy accents. I started doing it and realizing that I don't really need to have perfect, excellent accents to be able to accurately portray a world.
Yeah.
But character relationships are things that sometimes surprise me. If someone asks me for like a father or a brother or something, those are, I care a lot about having good portrayals, and that is
Yeah.
where I'm like, I had this amazing experience of being told by my players that when I played a father, when I played a brother, they could see me kind of mimicking the way that the player character spoke a little bit. That I
Wow.
was using some of the same intonation, or I was some of the same like facial expressions or something, because I was kind of mimicking the player in response to the conversation. And I didn't even know I was doing that. But it felt so good to hear that they were like, oh, we could tell they were related because of how you were speaking.
That's amazing.
Wow, I've never felt better about myself.
That's such a good trick, though.
Yeah. Maybe it's the like, you know, again, neurodivergency, like mimicry, masking stuff where you kind of mimic people as you become comfortable with them or something like
Yeah.
that. But I don't know. It was great.
And that calls to mind like another. It's not so much a question, but an observation, and I'm curious to see if you've ever shared it. Have you noticed like things like your particular neurodivergency or just your life experiences have granted you access to things as a GM that you see other individuals kind of not able to grasp as well as
Yeah.
you?
Riz.
Yeah, that's fair. That's fair. I have none. I have none.
I don't, that is mostly a joke. But I I have had years in the past where I was more insecure about myself or in relationships, you know, and I've been through relationships that taught me a lot about who I want to be, because I wasn't living really as myself in those relationships as much. So I think that confidence about what I want out of close friendships or emotional relationships has made me a lot better at playing characters when it comes to not just like, you know, the flirting in a bar vibe, but like really intense emotional relationships look like, and they are flawed and they are complicated and they can have disagreements, but that makes them stronger for it. So I feel very confident in my ability to depict like interesting entangled relationships because I have had experiences that were complicated in terms of boundaries between platonic and romantic, or in terms of navigating, financial dependency together, or navigating differences in privilege, right? And so depicting that in a game is really, really interesting to me.
Yeah. Okay. But my next one for you is like we've talked about all the things that you've done, like you just kind of freelancing, your project managing, just doing all of these different tasks.
Yeah.
And I've got two questions here. One, uh, have you noticed any particular jobs like altering the way that you play or the way that you GM? And two,
Mm.
you've done all these things, but I've never gotten around to asking you like what is a job that you can see yourself settling in on? Like, the right offer comes, it's comfortable, it's what you like. Like, what does that job look like to you?
Yeah. Absolutely. Working professionally in games has changed how I play games and how I run games. I think that being a good GM makes you incredibly qualified for a lot of jobs, and not just in like a, good at communication or managing people way, but a research and um, teaching people things. And when it comes to like organization and management and narrative design and writing, there are so many applicable skills. Conversely, my time doing project management, my time doing editing, and like pro GMing and all of that has made me realize that I have fallen out of love and back in love with running games. Because when I was doing it 20 hours a week or more just to live on, or like to, build savings so I could move to LA, like I was pushing myself to run 3 or 4 games and workshops and also do like freelance writing and stuff. It was really difficult for me to have the same level of care that I like to take to games. And
Yeah.
I realized that I could not do, storytelling professionally in a certain way and give the same level of care. I would burn myself out instantly. I did burn myself out because I couldn't give, strangers I was running for the same time. I can't go and have one-on-one conversations with each of them, or like message them and talk to them about what they're interested in for their character backstory, or do they need help building this character because my employer isn't going to pay me for that time, and I can't do it. I physically don't have enough time to do it. So I began to realize that there are some shortcuts you can take to still caring and doing a good job without that same level. And I've also become more guarded, like I said before, with my emotional energy for that kind of thing, because I know that if I run anything that's longer than like a one shot, even a few episodes of a story, I will start to care a lot. And if I do that, it has to be worth it to me. Like I have to protect that energy. Right now, I would not add another game to my roster. Like I don't have time for it. So keeping my boundaries there. Some great shortcuts for making players feel like they care is asking them questions in game. Collaborative world building and storytelling. Like, what do you find in this dungeon? Or what's a cultural practice here that your character partakes in? Like those
Yes.
questions are a great way to bring players in without you having to prep stuff. It actually lessens your prep time. So collaborative games are really great for that. And talking to players when you didn't have time to prep something, letting them know. I think sometimes we like to pretend that we're like these all powerful gods who know everything that's going on all the time. But I've had experiences where I showed up at a convention to run a game. I was supposed to run Alien, I think it was Alien RPG, and I sat down, and the players were like, "We signed up for Morkborg," and I said, "Well, listen, I've just prepped Alien. Uh, we can either play the adventure that I'm ready for, or if you give me 15 minutes and let me look at Morkborg, I will run you through an adventure that I'm going to make up off the top of my head." And they were like, "Well, we really wanted to play Morkborg." So I went and I took 15 minutes, and I wouldn't do this for every game, but I like read, they have a 1-page rule summary, and I pulled up like an old D&D adventure that I had ran and like just took some of the bones of that and started running it. And it was one of the best games that I've ever run. Just
Yeah.
off the top of my head. Because I said to the players, listen, frankly, I need at least a little time to prep this. So again, communication with the players is always great, but not to the point of driving yourself into the ground.
Yeah. I I I I do think it takes a certain level of maturity for DM to just be transparent with their players and going,
Yeah.
I don't have much cooked today, so this is a you guys day. But I do notice that anytime I've had a GM do that, it's been one of the best sessions.
Yeah.
Personally, I think that's and I'd love to know your thoughts on this. I think as GMs, we get kind of caught up in like keeping the plot and everything moving forward, and players can kind of understand the pace of the GM, but they'll still have things that they have wanted to do, but
Yeah.
because of plot they just let it go. So
Mhm.
that episode where it's just like, hey guys, I got nothing, I think there's generally a backlog that players
Oh,
are
yeah.
silently like, thank fucking god, because 2 episodes ago the cleric ate my soup and we're gonna have it out about it.
I love that shit. Yeah, definitely. I do, as a GM, sometimes get a little railroaded with what my players want to do. Actually, I will say, like, just because I love my players so much and I love to like take the time, I've had like episodes where we spent 2 weeks just talking on the road to each other because we wanted to have all these emotional conversations that we didn't actually get to the place. So I've been working on a little more drive the plot forward. But yeah, that asking your players and talking to them beforehand makes a huge world of difference. I would also say having, even for a one shot, I like to have 1 or 2 sessions beforehand if I'm able to, because I love playing some of these pre-game games that exist, things like the Session Zero system or Decima, or there's some like variations on For the Queen where you kind of do like a collaborative game answering questions together about the setting and your backstory. Those are awesome for building relationships together, answering relationship questions or connections. More and more games are building those in. Alice is Missing has some like built-in character relationships that you build together, and that's a huge part of character building because the characters in Alice are pre-made, like they have a name, they have something about them that already exists, so those relationship connections are kind of what you build like for your character, and they're so huge. So yeah, taking the time to do that is awesome, and it's all threads you can pull on, like asking players to tell you what they are thinking about saves you so much time.
Oh
So much time. To go back to another question that you asked, which is about my like dream job in the space, I guess, and what I would do full time.
yeah.
I am very lucky, I think, to have stumbled onto that job. I think I am currently doing that job, and I'm
Okay.
very thrilled to share information about it soon. But I will say that the best of working in the space for me is doing so many different things. Like even as a freelancer, working my ass off, I really like to have a lot of different things to hop between, whether it's I'm, editing some text today and then I get to go play test another day, and then I get to like be at a convention and represent, a company. And then I get to like look at some cool art that's going to be in a book and like give feedback on that. That is the dream to me. As I don't want to do the same thing every day. I love to do a lot of different things. And working in making games and game design and publishing, like one day you're researching historical weapons, and then the other day you are sitting around a table with some friends and just like looking at mechanics and trying to break them, you know? And that is truly the dream to me. And to be able to do that sustainably and also pay my rent and feed myself and my partner, like that is the goal. And I don't think there are many opportunities in this space to do that. And the fact that so many people still stick the fuck at it is amazing to me, because I've seen loved ones struggle and struggle to wed their passion with their ability to sustain themselves. And I don't know if tabletop as a place has enough resources to feed the people who want to be there. And that is my like number one heartbreak, that the people who could do amazing things for game design and game production do not have the resources to also be able to live. And that is not just a fault of this industry, but also a fault of capitalism in our society and lack of universal health care and like lack of, you know, support and resources for food and housing.
Yeah. I dip my toe into the business side of TTRPG, and I took a step out and I was like, "No, I don't think I love this."
Yeah.
So like, but kudos to the folks that do keep up with it, and more than that, though, like kudos to the people that are sticking with it during this particular tumultuous time in the
Yeah.
gaming industry.
It's tough out here.
I've got a lot of good friends who work for Wizards, and of course, I've let my displeasure with them be known. Not the people that work there, but with Wizards. And the thing to remember is just like this big entity that represents a lot of things that I don't like. It also puts food on the plates of people that I do like. So it's just like fuck you guys, but like kinda.
Yeah. It's just rough. It's rough out here. And
It's
I
rough.
there are a lot of things I enjoy that I also consider, like I think about in that way. You know, like love Baldur's Gate, obsessed with Baldur's Gate. Larian Studios seems amazing. I'm really excited that they are seeming to care about the people who work for them. You know, like a lot of video games are laying off people who made the amazing things. You know, and and
Yeah.
outside of like gaming as well, I've got a lot of friends who are making it work by doing, you know, like data stuff or doing, you know, financial stuff, or they're like working in restaurants. And what it takes to put food on the table right now is an inhuman amount of will. And
Yeah, I'll love to all those positions, but
yeah,
as a former one myself, shout out to the community managers. You guys need more.
shout out to the community
You need more
managers.
fucking
Shout
hugs than
out.
you're getting, like wherever you
Every
Straight up.
hug
are.
ever, if that's okay.
Yeah,
I did that
I
job for
agree.
like a year and a half, and I just the who.
Listen, I've done some community management stuff too, and it is, yeah,
Dude,
it's a lot.
Uh,
it's
no,
too
go ahead.
much. No, go ahead, go ahead.
I was gonna say, as someone who has sort of dived headfirst into this industry, wearing, as you mentioned, many different hats, too many hats maybe.
Yeah.
How do you combat burnout?
I am still working on that. I really am. And it's, you have to have interests that aren't what you do professionally and for a hobby. Like you just have to give yourself spaces away from what you care about the most in order to be able to care about them. I got some really good advice from a friend. They passed to me from someone else they met, like an author they met, which is that you cannot give 100% of yourself to any job. You really should give 20% of your like good ideas and creative ideas to the company or job you work, and keep 80% of your best ideas and creative energy to yourself, because they will not pay it back to you. The most sustainable, amazing company is still a company. And at the end of the day, you are there making them money or making their product or helping them make cool things. I mean, even in nonprofit, right? Even nonprofit work is still incredibly draining, underpaid, you know, a ton of it is like goes to just keeping upkeep, all that stuff. So you have to keep that 80% for yourself. Your best idea, they are not paying you for your best ideas. They're paying you to just make some things happen. If you give them your best ideas, it's gone. And I have been guilty of that. You know, I have a lot of like fun projects that I want to work on, writing I want to do, and I haven't saved the space for it, and I haven't saved the energy for it. I've worked late hours, I've worked weekends, I've skipped dates to stay at home and finish emails, you know, like, and that is really tough. I wouldn't advise it to anyone. I know that it's what you need to do sometimes to even make an inroads. Like you need to take time to teach yourself new skills, that there are unpaid opportunities, unpaid experiences that you will have, that you have to do to like learn a skill or get known. I get all of that and I've done all of that. But if you are not saving the best of yourself, you will look back later and realize that you gave your potential to people who didn't deserve it, because you are the person who deserves your potential most of all.
If you're
Yeah.
not saving the best of yourself, you're wasting the best of yourself.
Yeah.
That's rough. That yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
it's true, but it's also
It's
rough.
hard.
I mean,
It's a hard
it,
balance.
it calls to mind something that I didn't even realize, which is that I feel like these companies know that, and they some of them aggressively seek to get more than what you signed to give, if that
Yeah,
makes sense.
it does. And I just in a creative industry, it's so difficult. Like I know a lot of creatives who should not be bosses and not be managers, you know? And like when you want to make something creative and you don't have management experience, you still want to make your creative thing. It's very difficult.
Yes.
And they're, as much as large companies are very difficult, they also sometimes they have things like HR or a manager or, you know, like time off, right? And when you're freelancing and when you're owning your own creative, like your own small business, you don't have that same ability, which is really difficult. So I don't know. I'm just like still navigating that as a person, how I feel about large corporations, like the ways that they protect you and also the ways that they do not protect you, you know? And if you've never worked at a job that offers you even a little bit of like PTO or overtime or HR or like a supervisor or something, um, you don't necessarily know how helpful it is to have like guidelines. And I did
Yeah.
so much freelance that I didn't have those guidelines for a long time. I didn't have someone saying you're overworking yourself. And I can like there's companies that don't protect you like that. But I didn't have anyone who was looking out for me like that. And I've also worked jobs at companies where I was just like working with creatives all the time. They weren't protecting their time, which meant they weren't protecting me. Because if your boss, like the boss is overworking themselves and underpaying themselves, you can't expect them to do better for you than they're
Yeah.
doing for themselves, which is really tough.
She that's gonna bring us to some of our structured questions here on the Dark Roast. We've already done your signature move as a GM. This is where we start to get into the area where I'm probably gonna get yelled at by the chat. We're gonna start with petty prime time. Of course, we're going to describe everything that we're asking for here. Petty prime time is your chance to subtweet in real life.
Wow.
So if there's something that you need to get off your chest, you can just say it here. And of course, we always model the expectations that we expect from our guests. So Anita is gonna kick us off with the petty prime time.
Oh, I have one for this. I had one for this and I've lost it. Uh, keep your edits relevant to the person that is doing the specific editing.
Oh, you got
I got professional
subtweets.
beef today.
Professional subtweets. Okay.
If I
I,
have to go through pages upon pages of edits and see that none of them are really, like, maybe 5 of them are pertaining to me, keep the ones that are pertaining to me. Highlight those ones for me, please. It's a lot. I gotta sort through like 20 pages, more than 20 pages.
um I've got gaming subtweets to give. Uh
Yeah.
Broken clocks strike twice. Broken clocks are right twice a day. All right. Live games still suck. Helldiver might be okay. That's subtweet number one. Subtweet number two is where y'all Harry Potter fans at? Like, I'm still playing Baldur's Gate. Y'all ain't saying shit. I saw one commercial for Hogwarts Legacy like 2 millennia ago. Y'all was talking wild spicy, and ain't nobody playing that game. That's it. Those are my two.
I have
I
my
got
I
I got
have
into a tip at work
Yeah.
about this.
I have my second one. This one's not professional.
Yeah.
This one is this one
Go
is
ahead.
if you if something tragic happens to someone in the space and a lot of people are talking about it, it's not the time for you to even sub promote the things that you're doing in the background.
That's a good one.
Ooh.
Because
That's a really good one.
Because I heard someone say, I was going to release this today, but I decided to hold that off to talk about this. That's still a soft
Yeah.
launch of the thing that you're working on, and you've just tag teamed it off the back of something pretty terrible. That's it from me.
All right, I think I've got some good ones.
Okay.
Which is pay your people on time. Just pay your people on time. Do it. If you can't do that, you shouldn't do anything else.
Hate
If you
being in
can't pay
invoicing hell.
people, don't do anything. And then my other one is you are not the center of the galaxy. And that's just like I have to sit back and remind myself that sometimes. I think I'm pretty good about that, but like the pain you feel, the difficulties you go through, they're not the center of things. And you don't need to share them on the internet all the time. It's okay, but things you put on the internet, no one has the perspective that you do on them. Like, no one is going to see what you put on the internet and understand where you're coming from when you put it out there. In fact, the internet is like designed to misunderstand what you've put on it. So always keep in mind that when you share something, the worst context will be assumed about it.
I like pancakes. So you hate waffles?
Yeah. That's it for me.
I got one last one.
Last little bit of petty.
I need you to look around to your friends group and everybody involved in your projects. Would they ever appear on Friends? If the answer is no, you need to get out of there. If you and your group could just walk through a scene of Friends, you need to be somewhere else. It's not nearly enough. And bad things always happen. Bad things always happens when it's just a group of like straight dudes. Like nothing good ever happens.
Yeah.
When that's what it is. Like look at the worst groups in humanity. It's all straight dudes. Just look around at your group, make sure that you walk it like you talk it. That's it. That's my last one.
Cishet white
Good
men
stuff.
ruined the party again.
Um, it's but that's gonna bring us to our next one. Okay, here we go. Fuck you. I'm just gonna just hell dive into this one. Um, this is TTRPG confessionals. This is where if you have uh a tendency that you bring to the table that's not the greatest, this is where you can come to confess. We will give you your penance and you will go forth and sin no more.
Then Nora's gonna kick us off
Oh,
this
that's
time.
good.
Oh, fuck you.
You put me
Yeah.
on the spot last time.
It's cute when I do it. All right, no, okay, all right. What 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 sins have I committed in TTRPG lately? Right. Okay, a GM a GM sin. Here we go. Um, I put too much spooky shit at the start of a game, and now we're getting towards the end of the game, and it's just like how much more spooky shit can this wagon hold?
That's a good
So,
one.
so now it's just like, do I bring new spooky shit to this car, or do I make prior existing spooky shit spookier? I'm going back and forth because there was the promise of potentially more spooky shit, but now I'm kind of sitting back and I'm just like, that's a lot of spooky shit.
Not a problem for me.
Okay.
Love as much spooky shit as possible, but you know, to each their own.
I mean, because the spooky shit isn't necessarily bad for the players. Some of the spooky shit has been like, well, you're gonna be my champion now. And so it's just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
I think I went too hard at the first couple of episodes, and now we're at the back end, and it's just like,
You need to subvert
well,
the spooky shit and make it worse.
Yeah.
okay.
I think one of my big sins is under prepping. I mean, I just like, not that you have to prep, but I always under prep right when I really want to do like a really big intense episode of something, and then I stay up really late to try and fix it, and I am sleepy for my game. So my biggest sin is stay up late and then be sleepy when the goal of stay up late was to be really ready. So number one.
Mm, mm, okay. So my penance to you will be this. During the original prep that you feel that you have to go back and fix, instead of writing instead of going back and fixing it when you originally write it, write write an additional option for yourself.
Give
I
myself
fi-
more option.
yeah, I figure if you do it that way, one, you're less inclined to delete it because it's more. And two, since you have more options, you've got more things to kind of help sprout a new idea. Oh my god, I can't talk right now. What is
Oh,
going
you're
on?
fine.
More options is better.
Yeah,
That works for me.
Nina, you got a penance?
Yeah.
Ooh, good question. I I'm terrible at remembering character names, especially if they're NPCs that my players have made up. I gave an NPC 5 different names during during a session that I ran last weekend. The name was Mahu.
I just did
By
that.
the end of the night, his name was Maho, Mariachi, Marquis. I don't remember.
Okay.
I gotta write these
I have
things
a I have
down
a proposed
probably.
penance
What's the penance?
for you. Which is you gotta name your NPCs things you won't forget. You have to name them after an object. You
Okay.
have to be like, this is plant, this is cloud. That'll
This was made
that's
up
what
by
you
the
gotta do.
by the player though, is the problem.
Change the name.
Change the name. All right.
His name's
Around
Ye-
these parts, they call me Cloud.
Yeah.
I added the mountain man to
give
the
him
end
a
of the name.
nickname.
It was Mahu the Mountain Man.
Yeah, listen, that helps.
It helped. It
Mountain
actually
Man
did
is
help a
good.
little.
All right, here's my penance. I've got two of them for you. One, Maho's name always being something different has to be a bit now.
Make it
It's
a
now.
bit. That's a good one.
I'm sorry, that is just the way it is in world. Nobody can remember this poor individual's name. Um, two, um, I would say make an NPC that's solely to help you learn other characters' names. Like I would like if they're like working with the king or something, give the king an assistant that's just
The
like nah!
vizier who writes down all the names. That's funny.
Just give yourself something to help remember, and if you can do it in game, it's even better. Because your players will catch on to what you're doing and they will torture you about it.
Type.
Or maybe that's just my experience. Mm,
Players will give
let's
you
see. I
the
think
wrong name on purpose.
I think
That's a good
that's
one too.
everybody's penance.
Yeah.
Hey, and chat didn't chew me out. Look at that. We're growing.
I mean,
We're growing.
I got.
What were
I'm
you
not
about
gonna.
to say?
I'm not gonna say anything.
Growing together. See there. All right. That brings us to our TTRPG commandments. Now, we have been asking guests this season to give us one tabletop commandment, and I can go ahead and read a couple of them for you. So,
Yeah.
Hype Goblin's commandment is that everyone at the table should be just as invested in other people's stories as their own. Amelia Tyler, sorry, says thou shalt create fun experiences with players less experienced than you without the GM asking you to. Dr. Emily Friedman says thou shalt play many different games with many different people, and thou shalt not treat people as things. Alec the Bard says prioritize telling a good story as a group instead of as individuals, and thou shalt give your baddies daddy energy. Uh, Trey Rivera says, "Thou shalt add to the world you're playing in, and not just live in it." Mentalamia says, "Thou shalt stay connected to their inner eternal experience and communicate actively with the table." Sandalev says that thy fun and that of fellow players is not wrong. And Drax, my eternal enemy, says both GMs and players shall facilitate a moment for each other. And Latinos Against Spooky Shit says, thou shalt adopt a small creature and have it be the baby of the party, and thy will be thy bond.
Those are some good commandments.
I forgot about that last one.
I think I'm gonna pull from that reward the no I said before.
Oh yes.
And I'm gonna say respond to a no with support. Every no reveals how to better understand yes. Like when thou shalt respect boundaries and respond to setting them with enthusiastic support.
Can I get that second part?
Yeah. Thou shalt respect boundaries and respond to the setting of them with enthusiastic support.
Oh yeah. That's a really good one. That's probably going to top five once we actually make this a thing. All right. Now we're gonna dip just a little deeper into the more negative, darker side of the dark roast. If you've been in the TTRPG space for long enough, you've probably had the mispleasure of playing at the table with the bad guy. A bad guy is a veritable black hole of fun at the table, someone that if they are yeeted into the sun, your experience at the table would improve 100-fold. So, Aldermancy, I have to ask you, have you played with a bad guy?
Yes, I have. Yes, I have.
I hate that for you.
I played with someone who was dating the GM. And that's
Mm,
not always a bad thing,
not
but
always.
he was a bit of a negative Nelly, in that he liked to kind of neg the GM a little bit because they were dating and like go off to the left, ignore the plot, just like mess with or kill plot important NPCs because he could.
Oh.
And the GM had to like kind of set the boundaries on that very frequently, but it would still continue to happen. And sometimes it would happen not to the GM's NPCs, but to the players. Like a player would care a lot about wanting to get like a little pet or something, and then that player would swoop in and be like, the pet's evil, you know, we gotta kick it off a cliff, like that kind of thing. I don't know why. To the point where at one point I was so determined to like try and just understand or make a good connection or something or figure out what was going on that I said, listen, let's play siblings in this next one shot we're doing. So we have to be nice to each other. Like we have to protect and care about each other. You know, I didn't say all that. I was like, but let's try it. Like we have had some troubles playing in the past. Maybe if we're siblings, it'll be fine. And then down the line, there was some major messed up stuff happened to our characters. We were playing Out of the Abyss, I think it was. So it's like the Underdark thing, and there was this whole memory issue. And at one point, my character completely lost their memory, and then was like taken over by this malignant spirit that was possessing them. And their brother started just straight up lying to them, being like, your name is this, which it wasn't. You're actually like you're younger than me, which she wasn't. Like you do everything, I say, like straight up gaslighting my memory lost character into doing it. And I got so upset that I was like, you have to fix this. Go fix the memory problem. I cannot stand it. And we never got to finish the one shot. So that guy sucked.
Holy fucking shit. Wow. There's so many. Why though? Why?
Some people's fun is messing with other people's fun. But don't need that at my table.
Yeah, that's a that guy.
Yeah.
There's no.
It's like it's just being a shit disturber for the sake of being a shit disturber.
Yeah. And again, I think it's like kind of messing with the GM a little bit too. Like some people in their relationships have a little bit of that like fun antagonistic energy. Don't bring it to your tabletop game.
Yeah.
Not everyone bought in on that.
Exactly. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm glad you don't have to play with that person any longer.
Me too.
I hope that remains true for a lot of people. Holy,
I think so.
like the sweet little animal one is the one that got me because I like to pretend I'm a fucking troll, but I can't imagine going, hey party, let's kick a puppy. Like yeah, that's a
Now again, it was a baby dragon, so it was like a whole thing of like it's gonna grow up to be evil. Like you have to. But when it's put there and the player was like, we can adopt, anyway, I'm not going to go into the whole thing again.
I'm
No,
sorry.
you're good. Well,
Yeah, let's shake it off. Anita, do you have a that guy story for us?
I don't have a that guy story for us this week. I actually started GMing again for Magpie for the CPP, and all the players at my table were like really good folks, and I'm very
That's
happy
great.
about it. Like they're all good beans.
Oh, that's
It was
awesome.
so nice. Immediately, there was a Princess Bride joke that we all answered at the same time.
I don't know that I trust anybody that doesn't like that movie. All right, but that's going to bring us to a much lighter segment, which is we like to call out comfort blanket players. And what that is the TTRPG scene can be a little clicky. And comfort blanket players are folks that are always bringing new people into the fold and like kind of spreading the love. And
Yeah.
it's somebody that if you see them on like the cash sheet, you know that you're gonna have a good game. So do you have any such players?
I already shouted out Lexi, Black Girl Mage. She's amazing,
Yeah.
a fantastic person, incredibly creative, an amazing GM as well as a player. I do have to shout out, of course, my partner, Sarah. Sarah's coffee is a treat to have at any table and brings so much to any performance as well. Like I have seen Sarah break a leg in a horror game and then literally physically like clutch their leg and scream in a way that shattered my heart and shocked everyone there, and it was fantastic. It was so good. I can't even tell you. We were like playing by candlelight. So absolutely an amazing player. Sloan at Art Plebe is
Yes.
my number one like passenger seat person to have. Like they are so good at keeping a game on track, supporting the GM with prep, like, encouraging the players. Absolutely fantastic person. And then I want to give another really big shout out to Elise Resendez. Elise is a really good friend of mine that's at Blickmore. She worked on the Session Zero system with Gabe, and she is a fantastic person. I don't see her
Yeah.
on as many like actual play tables. That's not really her jam, but I have been lucky enough to play some games with her. She won an award at Big Bad Con, the Morgan Ellis Award. And it's just an amazing person in the space who's working really hard to uplift. So if you get a chance to meet Elise, she's changed my life.
Hell yeah.
Oh yeah,
Nothing but good beans there. I love it.
yeah,
Um, and really, the last part was we just call it community spotlight. If there's anybody else that you could think of that you'd want to put a little light on or have us reach out to, this is
yeah.
where you can.
Well, I've been very excited because you've brought on a lot of people I care about here. You've got some great folks like VJ is a dear friend of mine, and
Love
he's
BJ.
a treat to have. I don't know if you've gotten a chance to talk to Kai. That's at Estelle of Imladris. Kai is a
Ooh.
recent performer on the new season of Transplanar. They are also a costuming designer and professional who works at
What?
the largest costume residency here in Los Angeles. So they have incredible historical knowledge of like military insignias and all this stuff. They are super amazing, and I've been telling people it's the year of Kai. Like Kai recently consulted on the new release of For the Queen that's announced, coming from Darrington Press,
Oh,
as
heck
like
yeah.
a costuming consultant for them. Incredible. So super
Wow.
recommend him.
Hell yeah. So one of the things that we're trying to do is we're going to put clips of all the people that you suggested, and we're going to put that on our Patreon and on our socials, so you can go check them out.
Hell yeah.
But that has been our episode. Thank you so much for stopping by.
Thanks for
Uh,
having me.
oh, uh, Another bit is that I have to say that I'm gonna bully you to come back. I'm pretty sure you can take me in a fight, so don't fight me. But we're gonna
We'll
have you
see.
come back. I am one of your hosts, Noir. I go by he, they. You can find me all over the internet as the Noir Enigma. That's Twitter, Twitch, YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, and the whole thing. Uh, that's it for me. So Anita.
Hi everybody, I'm Anita. You can find me everywhere at Panita. I am the channel runner and founder of Critical Misses, so you can find me here most times. We got shows on Monday, we got shows on Friday. If you like Blades in the Dark, or if you like people riding dragons and found family, check either one of those shows out. And we also have a Patreon for Morning Ritual. If you like the stuff you see here and you want to ask exclusive guest questions, like, hey Alex, why are you so cool?
It's because I'm gay.
There you have
Yeah.
it. Thanks, Sphinx. And Alex, why don't you tell everybody where folks can find you?
Yeah, thank you guys so much for having me. I have been Alex. You can find me most places at Alder_Mancy. That's ALDER_MANCY. I also have a website, alexteplitz.com, and I have a lot of exciting things coming out very soon. If you want to follow a game that I'm working on, it's called Confluence RPG. It's going to be launching in October from Publishing Goblin. You can go to bit.ly/P presave C Confluence to check that game out. I also stream every Saturday. Strange Hungers is my queer horror D&D campaign that I've talked a lot about. I'm actually going to go GM it right now, so you can go over to Total Party Kiss and check that out. And I'm also the technical director for a pulp culture and gaming news show called It's Too Early on Pixel Circus, and that is Monday, Wednesday, and Friday mornings at 9 a.m. Pacific time.
Heck yes. I think we're just gonna follow you. I think you're gonna follow over to Total Party Kiss. I love
Hell
saying
yeah.
that. And then we'll pick right back up with you. So,
Awesome.
all that
Thanks, y'all.
said, no problem.
All
And
right, everybody.
the
Without
ritual's been
further-
concluded.
The ritual has concluded. Bye, everybody.
Bye.